now. That is the distressing sound of emergency services and Venezuelans appealing for help after two strong earthquakes struck the capital city, Caracas. At least 164 people have died and hundreds are injured, but the US Geological Survey said the numbers of deaths could rise past 10,000. Footage shows debris strewn on the streets while rescuers dig through the rubble of collapsed buildings to locate survivors. With me now is Dr. Richard Luckett, a seismologist at the British Geological Survey. Richard, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This earthquake, how large is it in terms of scale? I mean, how can we understand the size of this earthquake?
Well, it was 7.5, which means that it's very big. I mean, the biggest earthquakes we know about are sort of magnitude 9, but they're extremely rare. A magnitude 7 is a very damaging earthquake. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, really.
And is it unusual that there should have been two earthquakes within just 40 seconds of each other?
Yes, but not unheard of. It's called a doublet. I mean, it's been seen before. It's quite well documented, and it means that the fault is very complicated, which we knew about this plate boundary in the north of Venezuela anyway. It's a very complicated fault structure there. We've had doublets in this area before. So it's telling us something about the way it faulted as opposed to anything else.
What would it, I mean, and if we can even discuss it in these terms, what would it look like, that fault? What do you mean by a complicated fault? Because I sort of think of a fault as simply being a crack where one plate meets another, but it can be more complicated than that.
Yes, well, for a start, it's for an earthquake this big, it's sort of 150 kilometres long. So, well, between 100 and 200 kilometres long, we don't know yet. Mm. But obviously in that kind of length, I mean, you can have all kinds of complexities. You can have bends, and part of it will have moved more than other parts of it. And, parts of it will be nearer the surface than other parts of it. So the whole thing is much more complicated than you might originally think.
And look, there obviously isn't a sort of a direct link between the size of an earthquake and the number of people who are injured, who are casualties, who are even killed. Why is the death toll expected to be so high in this case?
Well, because of the number of people that live very close, because of where it was. I mean, it's in a highly built-up part of Venezuela. Also, it's very near the surface. I mean, this was a shallow earthquake, which, again, is typical of that part of the world. But obviously, the nearer the surface the earthquake starts, then the closer it is to the people and the buildings that it could damage.
Does Venezuela, and this part of Venezuela, frequently experience earthquakes like this?
It frequently experiences earthquakes. There hasn't been a magnitude 7 for a long time. I think the last one was in sort of 1900. There was a 17.5. There was a 6.7 in 1967, which killed people in Caracas. But I mean, the fact there hasn't been a magnitude 7 in this area for so long doesn't mean anything. I mean, it is an area you would expect magnitude 7s.
Right, sure. Should they be expecting like aftershocks, more earthquakes in the near future?
Yes, I mean, there have already been a lot of magnitude 4s, which have been impeding their rescue efforts and can, of course, cause damaged buildings to fall down. Normally, for a magnitude 7, the largest aftershock you might expect would be a magnitude 6, which hasn't happened yet, but could do in the next days and weeks.
Yeah, Dr. Richard Luckett of the British Geological Survey, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Now, Venezuela, at least 160 people have died after back-to-back earthquakes in Venezuela. The final death toll is expected to be much higher. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been explaining what America is doing to help.
We're already deploying search and rescue teams from Fairfax County, Virginia, and Los Angeles. There'll be some others we'll add. That's their most immediate need right now, is search and rescue efforts. They have a much of collapsed buildings, and so they'll need a lot of help in terms of digging through that. The airport there is badly damaged, so we'll have to rely on the Department of War to deploy assets there. And then we're also helping them with some overhead imagery, especially in coastal areas where they don't have full visibility over what the damage has been and what the impact has been. Those are the acute, like short-term needs over the next 48 to 72 hours, because in search and rescue, you're trying to get to people while you can still save their lives. They're buried under rubble.
Marco Rubio there. Now, let's get the thoughts of Andreina Fermin-Gonzalez, the journalist on the ground there in Caracas. Hello to you, Andreina.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for making time to talk to us, Andreina. It's a terrible story. What is the latest picture there?
Well, the situation is pretty unsafe at the moment. We have been suffering so many replicates after the earthquake, and the people are still in the street looking for families, looking for places where to stay during the situation, because most of the buildings in these areas are suffering damage, structural damage, and it's not safe for the people to come back to the buildings, and it's not safe for them to spend the night there. So most of the people were sleeping on the streets, sleeping in other places to try to be safe in the middle of the situation. We have a website looking for missing people, and it's over 7,000 people who are looking families or members in Venezuela who are lost at the moment.
And it's the case then that on the ground there, locals, neighbours are helping to look for and try to find those who are buried under rubble. The emergency services, it's a lot for them to try to deal with. They're not very well equipped, are they?
Well, the main problem here are communications at the moment, because in some areas of the capital we don't have electricity, or in other areas of the country we don't have internet connection or line phones working. So it's really hard for the people to get through phones and lines to get in touch with the families and the people missing. And it's also very difficult for the teams, the rescue teams, trying to find help or trying to find people alive in these buildings that collapsed, because last night, without power, they had to use their phones to get light to try to get to these people who were trapped in the buildings. And the situation is overpassing the rescue teams that we have here. That's why the government is receiving help from other countries to try to get access to the people who are trapped in the buildings as soon as possible, because the situation, Venezuela is for sure not prepared for a situation like this one. We haven't experienced an earthquake of this magnitude in more than 100 years.
Well, we'll be following the story. Thank you so much for your reporting, Andreina Fermin-Gonzalez there in Caracas.